There comes a moment in your life when you realize that everything you've been reacting to, everything you've been stressing over, everything you've been calling reality, is not as solid, not as final, and not as powerful as you once believed. And in that moment, something shifts within you. You stop chasing, you stop forcing, you stop begging life to change, and instead you become still. Because deep down, you begin to understand that what you see in front of you is only a reflection of what has already passed, not what is being created right now. And right now, beneath the surface, beyond your physical senses, a powerful transformation is unfolding. Doors you cannot yet see are opening, circumstances are rearranging, and a new version of your life is quietly forming. So this is your call, not to panic, not to doubt, not to interfere, but to relax, to trust, and to stand firm in the unseen truth, because the shift is not coming. It is already happening. Look closely at your life right now, the situations you're facing, the people around you, the results you're experiencing, and understand this one powerful truth. What you are seeing is not a live broadcast. It is a replay. It is a delayed reflection of thoughts, beliefs, and assumptions you held in the past. That means your current reality is not telling you what is happening now. It is showing you what has already been done. And if you don't understand this, you will keep reacting to old energy as if it were your present truth. And in doing so, you will unknowingly recreate the same patterns over and over again. Most people look at their reality and think, this is my truth, this is how things are. But what if that's the biggest illusion you've ever been taught to believe? What if everything around you is simply catching up to who you used to be, not who you are becoming? Because that is exactly how this works. There is always a gap, a space of time, between the moment you shift internally and the moment it becomes visible externally. And in that gap, your faith is tested. Not because something is going wrong, but because everything is going right behind the scenes. Think of it like planting a seed. The moment you plant it, the process has already begun, but you don't see the plant immediately. You don't stand there digging up the soil every 5 minutes, asking, is it growing yet? You trust the unseen process. You understand that growth is happening beneath the surface. And yet, when it comes to your life, your desires, your manifestation, you forget this principle. You plant the seed internally, through your thoughts, your beliefs, your assumptions. And then you immediately look at your external world for proof. And when you don't see it, you assume nothing is happening. But something is happening. It always is. Your current reality is like a mirror, but not an instant one. It reflects your past self, your past fears, your past doubts, your past identity. So when you react emotionally to what you see, you are reacting to something that is already finished. You are giving life to something that should be fading away. And this is where most people trap themselves. They keep responding to old reflections, and by doing so, they keep those reflections alive. They don't realize that the power was never in what they see. It is in how they choose to interpret and respond to it. So what does it mean to truly understand that your reality is delayed? It means you stop taking it personally. It means you stop assigning meaning to temporary appearances. It means you stop saying, this is happening to me, and instead begin to say, this is passing through. Because that's what it is. Something passing through, something on its way out, something that no longer belongs to the version of you you are becoming. When you grasp this, something incredible happens. You begin to detach, not in a cold or careless way, but in a powerful, grounded way. You stop being controlled by circumstances. You stop letting appearances dictate your emotions. Instead, you hold steady in your inner knowing. You understand that what you choose now, what you believe now, what you assume now, is what will show up later. And that shifts everything, because now, instead of reacting to your reality, you start creating beyond it. You stop arguing with what is, and you begin aligning with what will be. You become intentional with your thoughts. You become selective with your focus. You start feeding your mind with the version of reality you actually want, even if your eyes cannot yet confirm it. And that is where real power begins. But this requires discipline. It requires you to trust something you cannot yet see. It requires you to stay committed to a vision when your current reality seems to contradict it. And that is not always easy. There will be moments when everything in you wants to react, to panic, to fall back into old patterns. But in those moments, you must remind yourself, this is old. This is already done. This is not my future. It is my past catching up. And when you hold that awareness, you begin to move differently. You begin to feel differently. You begin to embody a new identity, not based on what you see, but based on what you know. And that identity is what shapes your future reality, not your current circumstances, not your past experiences, but who you decide to be right now in this moment. So relax. Stop trying to fix everything you see. Stop giving so much power to temporary conditions. Understand that your reality is in transition, even if it doesn't look like it yet. The shift has already begun the moment you decided to change internally. And what you are seeing now is just the final echo of an old version of you fading away. Hold your ground. Stay rooted in your new belief. Keep aligning with the version of yourself who already has what you desire. Because sooner or later, and it is always sooner than you think, the outer world will catch up. It has no choice. There is a silent power in relaxation that most people underestimate. You've been taught that in order to achieve something, you must push harder, try more, and constantly think about it until it happens. But the truth is, the more you strain, the more you signal lack. The more you force, the more you create resistance. And resistance is the very thing that delays what you desire. So when you hear the word relax, don't mistake it for laziness or inaction. Relaxation is not giving up, it is aligning. It is the state where your mind, body, and belief are no longer in conflict. When you are tense, anxious, or desperate, you are internally saying, I don't have it yet. That feeling becomes your dominant frequency, and life simply reflects that back to you. But when you relax, something shifts. You are no longer chasing, you are allowing. You are no longer trying to make something happen. You are trusting that it is already unfolding. And that shift in energy is what opens the door for manifestation to move freely into your experience. Think about the moments in your life when things came effortlessly. You weren't obsessing, you weren't doubting, you weren't checking for results every second. You were calm, you were detached, you were simply being, and suddenly things aligned. Opportunities appeared, situations worked out. That wasn't coincidence, that was alignment. That was you being in a state where there was no resistance blocking the flow of what you wanted. Relaxation is powerful because it signals certainty. It says, I don't need to worry because it's already handled. And that level of inner calm is what creates the fastest shifts. Not urgency, not desperation, not overthinking. Those only slow things down. When you are constantly checking, constantly wondering, when will it happen? You are actually affirming that it hasn't happened yet. And that keeps you stuck in waiting mode. But when you relax, you step out of waiting and into knowing. You stop looking for evidence because you already feel secure within yourself. You carry the energy of someone who has already received. And that energy is magnetic. It pulls things toward you without effort, without strain, without force. This doesn't mean you do nothing in your life. It means you stop doing things from a place of fear or lack. Your actions become natural, inspired, and effortless. You move because it feels right, not because you're trying to fix something. You think from a place of fulfillment, not from a place of need, and that changes everything. Most people are trying to manifest from a state of tension. They are trying to control every detail, predict every outcome, and force everything into place. But manifestation doesn't respond to control, it responds to alignment. And alignment is only possible when you are at ease within yourself, when you trust, when you let go of the need to force. So if you truly want to see change in your life, start here. Relax your mind. Calm your thoughts. Release the urgency. Remind yourself that you don't have to make everything happen right now. What is meant for you is already on its way. Your only job is to stay open enough to receive it, because the moment you relax, you stop blocking your own blessings. The moment you relax, you allow life to move for you instead of against you. And the moment you relax, you become the version of yourself that naturally attracts what you've been trying so hard to get. There is a critical difference between denial and conscious selection, and if you don't understand it, you will keep misinterpreting your own power. Denial is when you pretend something doesn't exist out of fear. It is avoidance. It is weakness. But conscious selection is something entirely different. It is strength. It is awareness. It is the deliberate decision to stop giving your attention to what no longer serves you and instead focus on what aligns with the reality you choose to create. When you are told to ignore your reality, it does not mean you become blind or irresponsible. It does not mean you refuse to acknowledge facts or avoid taking necessary actions in your life. What it means is that you stop emotionally reacting to what you see. You stop treating temporary circumstances as permanent truths. You stop letting appearances dictate your identity, your mood, and your expectations. Instead, you take control of your inner world and decide what you will give meaning to. Right now, your external reality may be showing you things you don't like: delays, rejection, uncertainty, or lack. And the natural tendency is to focus on those things, analyze them, and react emotionally. But the moment you do that, you are feeding energy into them. You are validating them. You are saying, "This is real. This matters. This has power over me." And whatever you give that level of attention to will continue to grow in your experience. Conscious selection asks you to do something different. It asks you to pause and recognize that you have a choice. Not in what has already appeared, but in how you respond to it. You can either continue reinforcing the same story, or you can shift your focus to a new one. You can either keep identifying with the problem, or you can start identifying with the solution. This is where your true power lies. Not in controlling every external detail, but in choosing your internal state regardless of what is happening around you. Because your internal state is what shapes your future reality. Not the circumstances you are currently observing, but the meaning and attention you assign to them. So when you ignore reality in this conscious way, you are not being fake, you are being intentional. You are saying, "I see what is in front of me, but I refuse to let it define me." You are choosing to align with a higher version of truth, the one you are creating, not the one that is fading away. And that choice, repeated consistently, begins to shift everything. At first, it may feel unnatural. Your mind will try to pull you back into reacting. It will tell you to worry, to doubt, to focus on what's wrong. But this is where discipline comes in. You must train yourself to redirect your attention. Every time you catch yourself getting pulled into old patterns, you gently bring yourself back to your chosen reality. The one where things are working out, the one where you are already secure, already fulfilled, already in control. Over time, this becomes easier. Your new focus becomes your default. And as it does, your emotional state begins to stabilize. You feel less shaken by circumstances. You feel more grounded, more certain, more at peace. And that inner stability starts to reflect outwardly in ways you cannot predict, but will definitely experience. Because life always mirrors what you consistently give your attention to. Not what you occasionally think about, but what you repeatedly feel and believe to be true. So if you keep selecting a reality of lack, fear, and limitation, that is what will continue to appear. But if you consciously choose a reality of abundance, confidence, and certainty, even when you don't yet see it, that is what will begin to take form. So understand this clearly. Ignoring your reality is not about escaping it. It's about outgrowing it. It's about refusing to stay mentally and emotionally tied to a version of life that no longer aligns with who you are becoming. It is about stepping into your authority as the creator of your experience and deciding, moment by moment, what you will accept as true. And when you do that consistently, with calm confidence and unwavering focus, your external world will have no choice but to adjust, because it is not the visible that controls the invisible. It is the invisible that shapes everything you eventually see. There is a sequence to transformation that most people overlook, and because they overlook it, they give up too soon. They expect change to appear first in the outer world, through visible results, clear signs, or immediate confirmation. But that is not how real change works. The shift you are waiting for does not begin outside of you. It begins within you. It starts in your thoughts, your assumptions, your emotional state, and the identity you choose to embody. And only after it becomes stable internally does it begin to reflect externally. This is where patience and awareness become essential, because the internal shift is subtle. It doesn't always come with fireworks or dramatic moments. Sometimes it shows up quietly, in the way you respond differently to something that used to trigger you, in the way you feel a little more at ease where you once felt anxious, in the way you naturally begin to think from a place of confidence instead of doubt. These are not small changes. These are the very indicators that the shift has already begun. But here is the challenge. Because these changes are internal, they are easy to overlook. You might dismiss them because they are not yet visible in your external circumstances. You might think nothing is happening simply because your environment hasn't caught up, and that is where most people disconnect from the process. They ignore the internal progress and focus only on external proof, not realizing that the external world is always the last thing to change. Think about it this way. Your outer reality is like a mirror, but it only reflects what has already been established within you. If your internal state is still fluctuating, sometimes believing, sometimes doubting, then the reflection will also be inconsistent. But when your internal shift becomes steady, when your new identity becomes natural, when your belief no longer wavers, that is when the outer world begins to reorganize itself in a clear and undeniable way. This is why forcing external change rarely works. You can try to manipulate circumstances, chase outcomes, or control situations, but if your internal state hasn't shifted, those changes will not last. They will either fall apart or revert back to what matches your dominant inner belief. True, lasting transformation only happens when the change is rooted within you first. So instead of constantly looking outward, begin to observe yourself inwardly. Ask yourself, how am I thinking now compared to before? How am I feeling in situations that used to disturb me? Am I starting to assume better outcomes naturally? Am I becoming more calm, more certain, more grounded? These are the real signs of progress. These are the foundations of the new reality you are building. And once that foundation is strong, the external shift becomes inevitable. You won't need to force it, chase it, or even question it. It will unfold in ways that feel almost effortless. Opportunities will appear at the right time. People will respond differently. Circumstances will begin to align in your favor. Not because you demanded it, but because you became the version of yourself for whom those outcomes are normal. But until that external reflection appears, you must remain steady. You must trust the internal work you have done. You must resist the urge to go back to old patterns just because you don't see immediate results. Because the moment you revert internally, you delay the external shift that was already in motion. So hold your focus where it matters most, within. Nurture the new identity. Strengthen the new belief. Stabilize the new emotional state. Let it become so natural to you that you no longer question it. And when you reach that point, you will notice something remarkable. The world around you begins to change, not gradually, but often suddenly, as if it had been waiting for you to fully become who you already decided to be. That is the nature of transformation. It is internal first, always. And once it is complete within you, the outer world has no choice but to follow. Faith is often misunderstood as something passive, something soft, something you turn to only when you have no other option. But true faith is one of the most powerful, disciplined, and unwavering states you can embody. It is not about hoping things will work out someday. It is about knowing, deep within yourself, that what you have chosen, what you have envisioned, is already set in motion. Even if there is no visible evidence yet, most people believe only when they see. They wait for confirmation, for signs, for proof that things are changing. And once they see it, they say, "Now I believe." But that is not faith, that is reaction. Faith works in the opposite direction. It says, "I believe first, and then I will see." It holds the vision steady, even when the outer world seems to contradict it. And that is what makes it so powerful, because it is not dependent on circumstances, it transcends them. There will be moments in your journey when everything around you looks the same. No movement, no visible progress, no clear indication that anything is shifting. In those moments, your mind will try to pull you back into doubt. It will question your path. It will whisper that nothing is happening. And if you are not aware, you will start to believe those thoughts. You will start to waver. And that wavering is what disrupts the process. But faith asks something different from you. It asks you to stand firm when it would be easier to give in. It asks you to remain calm when everything feels uncertain. It asks you to trust what you cannot yet see more than what is right in front of you. And that is not easy, but it is transformative. Because when you hold the vision consistently, without needing external validation, you begin to stabilize your internal state. You stop fluctuating between belief and doubt. You stop being emotionally controlled by circumstances. Instead, you develop a quiet certainty, a grounded knowing that does not need to be proven in the moment, and that inner stability is what allows reality to shift. Understand this. The external world is always catching up to your dominant belief, not your occasional thoughts, not your temporary emotions, but the belief you consistently return to. So if you keep changing your mind based on what you see, you delay the process. You send mixed signals. But when you remain steady, when you hold your vision without interruption, you create clarity, and clarity accelerates manifestation. Faith is not about ignoring challenges or pretending everything is perfect. It is about choosing where you place your trust. You can place your trust in appearances, which are temporary and often misleading, or you can place your trust in your inner vision, which is the blueprint of what is coming. And the moment you choose the latter, you step into a completely different way of experiencing life. You begin to move with confidence, even in uncertainty. You begin to feel peace, even when there are no answers yet. You begin to act from a place of fulfillment, not lack. And this shift in your state is what begins to influence everything around you. At some point, the external confirmation will come. It always does. The opportunities will appear, the circumstances will change, the results will align with what you have been holding internally. But by the time it happens, something within you will already know. It will feel familiar, expected, almost inevitable, because you have been living in that reality internally long before it showed up externally. So don't wait for proof to believe. Don't depend on signs to stay committed. Let your faith be the anchor that keeps you steady when nothing around you seems to support your vision. Because that is where real power lies. Not in reacting to what is visible, but in remaining loyal to what is invisible until it becomes undeniable. And when you master that, you realize something profound. The moment you truly believe, without needing confirmation, is the moment everything begins to change.